Hello, this is part 2. My favorite moments in Led Zeppelin songs, whether they're drums, guitar, or whatever. I left off on Candy Store Rock. Phenomenal recording. Moving on, CAROUSELAMBRA. Now I must confess, I had asked for Into the Outdoor for Christmas, 1979, and I got it. Now what my brother did is he really quick ripped it open for me, and in the original sleeves everything was sort of in like these, it was like black and white sort of art thing with these black dots, but if you wet it, color came out. It was really neat, but he did that. He was like, let me see it, and he did it, and I wanted to slay him. But CAROUSELAMBRA, I must confess, when I first popped that baby on, remember my first exposure to Zeppelin was, I mean I'd heard Stairway to Heaven or anything on the radio before, but was The Song Remains the Same, the soundtrack to the film, which I was blown away by. I just loved it so. But anyway, CAROUSELAMBRA. So here I am and suddenly I hear like I was kind of like, what the hell is that? Sure enough, the drums now, it took a couple listens. Remember I was 11 or 10. Took a couple listens for it to kick in. And I got it. CAROUSELAMBRA, really pretty song. You can find the outtakes from it. I mean, there's obviously the Led Zeppelin, the drums only that's out there from a lot of the In Through the Outdoor sessions, and you can hear them running through CAROUSELAMBRA. And what they're doing, it's a slightly different. You know, they might have cobbled together takes from different pieces of tape, but you know, when he first goes into that, you can hear him doing rim shots. It would sound like rim shots instead of snare. But anyway, the drums, of course, the whole In Through the Outdoor drum portion is recorded. Those drums sound so smooth, and the rumor is, in the rumor mill, is that actually, supposedly, there was a port cut in Bonham's bass drum head for Into the Outdoor. Just what I and some other Zeppelinophiles have heard. CAROUSELAMBRA. Dun, 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 out of the way. This is just nice and smooth. Just such pretty playing. You know, that just you like a symphony. You know, there's a true flow of time when they get to the there. I mean, the tempo slows down. I mean, it's like an orchestra. Remember, Zeppelin's like an orchestra. It's like a symphony even. Led Symphony. Okay? And then there's one, I gotta talk about this one fill. It's, you know the fill I'm talking about. Oh. I don't know exactly how he sticks it. I think in the outtakes you can actually hear him play it. But it's... And again, I'm not sure if he goes around the toms on that, but it sounds flammed. Oh. That's just golden, Colorado. So, moving on to, okay. And then we have, after CAROUSELAMBRA, Celebration Day. Now, Celebration Day, that's the neat thing about the internet now, is you can look this up very easily on the internet. Before the internet, you actually had to read books and find all this stuff out. And I remember, in the day, hearing about how the intro, and you can now find it online, to Celebration Day, you know how it has that, it's like that drone that goes into the intro? Well, apparently what had happened is somebody had erased supposedly part of the intro to the song. I think it might have been the late Ron Nevison. I'm not sure though. It might not have been. I remember it said, what did it say? You know what it said in the liner notes? It said, it said ruined by the whatever of Nevison, salvaged by the grace of Harwood. Either that or reversed. Ruined by Harwood, salvaged by Nevison, but I think it was Nevison than Harwood. Anyway, cool song. You know, and what happens is, for me, when I hear stuff off Zeppelin 3 and some houses of the Holy, you know, just like I've speculated, well, we Zeppelinophiles, Bonham-philes, have speculated that often, you know, Page did mess with the speed of the tape. Like they might record the rhythm bed and slow the tape down a little, maybe redo some of the guitar stuff on top of that, because the drums with discrete notes, if played slower on tape, they'll sound fatter. It'll lower the pitch too, but it'll just sound thicker, because there's a bigger amount of space that's going. Anyway. Now, Celebration to me sounds like it might be a little faster, but maybe not, because I might be just getting that confused with the speed I hear, and definitely the song remains the same, which will be coming down the road here. But Celebration Day, really neat tune. I mean, I love the live version, because part of what I just said before is I kind of got hooked on The Song Remains the Same, the live album, before I did a lot of the studio stuff. But really neat tune. Again, supposedly the intro was wiped. Was somehow maybe they were they were going to do, you know, sometimes in those days, you know, they might hit play and there's a safety for the record. Maybe they were hit play and were just wiping one of the, what they do is that they might start at the beginning and then erase one of the 24, or at that time maybe 16 tracks. But inadvertently, maybe all the head was lined up on all 16 tracks and got rid of like 7 seconds of the intro, something like that. So now Custard Pie. I don't mean to run through that one so fast, but these videos will be decades if I spend too much time on it. Custard Pie. I mean, that is just classic. Talking about Zeppelin 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 equals infinity. John Paul Jones on that, is it a clavinet? I think it's a clavinet. And then the drums come in. Give me a piece of that custard pie. And then you have sorry, that's wrong. It's just so thick and so fat. Custard Pie. What a classic Zeppelin fat sounding. Drums sound fabulous. The keyboards sound fabulous. Plant sounds fabulous. Page sounds fabulous. That in and of itself, when I say great moments in these, every song is a great moment, right? But I'm talking about extra great cream of the crop moments within those tunes. And of course at the end, so the song's going, and it almost sometimes gives the impression that it's like. I mean, sometimes I almost hear phantom 16ths in there, which of course could be. That snare sounds like biggest. So I'm going to change it around. And I'm going to put back a good. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this guy back. Because, you know, I really love the sound of these guys. You can pick them up for nothing on the Bay of V. So, but anyway, at the end of Custard Pie, give me a piece of that custard pie. As it's fading out, you have. In classic bottom form. So you know what I mean? That it's so understated. Like, it's nothing technically fancy. It's just so fat ass, like right in the right place. That's part of the thing. Bonham wouldn't play anything necessarily super fancy. He just played something really thick and sort of Wagnerian heavy percussion-y, just in just the right spot and never overdo it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now we move on to Communication Breakdown. A bass drum workout and a half. And you know, as we all know in Zeppelin-ophile, Bonham-ophile, Bonham's right foot was on the rampage in the first couple of years of Zeppelin. I mean, he always was. But when you listen all over that first record and parts of the second, into the third, and maybe a smidge of the... what did Hendrix say? Or one of Hendrix's, was it Mitch Mitchell or Hendrix said, yeah, or maybe it was Earl Palmer, one of these guys said, you know, he's got the right foot of a rabbit, like a really busy... Bonham was very busy with this foot. In fact, at some point when you hear in books or interviews when they talk about Peter Grant, Jimmy Page and Peter Grant sort of asked Bonham to tone it down a little. I don't think necessarily they were even so much talking about fills. I think they were also maybe talking about his bass drum busyness. Nonetheless, it's a trademark of his. Maybe not. That's my speculation. Communication breakdown. Communication breaks always the same. But this breakdown. Okay, communication breakdown is really neat. When you watch it on the Danish TV special, watch Bonham playing it. Watch it on the French TV show Touscene, 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 I think it is. Marvelous. That's when they're out there and they're playing in Paris, and they show him kind of at the sound check. Robert Plant has a tie-dye shirt on. Bonham he's got his drums there. I think even at that show, it's before he even has the second floor tom. I think it's the 26, the 14, and the 18. You know what I'm saying? And he has his gong. Probably at that time it wasn't a 38. It was probably a 30, man. It was smaller. The stand was on the floor. And it's marvelous. And listen, that's where Bonham does the does that with the twirl, which is magnificent. It's magnificent, but it's so heavy and it's so beefy. Just listen when you... What happened was years ago, people used to have video of that. Like I remember watching that on VHS in the late 80s, somebody had found it. And me being like, what? I mean, that was one of the rare times, you know, before the internet and stuff, where you actually saw Zeppelin like in moving pictures. Not just still shots, like actually. And I remember watching that and seeing Bonham on the rampage and how fat it sounded. It was just the coolest thing in the world. Of course, those clips are marred a little bit by the French sensibility of I think the whole Mojo might have been a hotel kind of thing. Like there were bellboys and like, what the hell, revolving doors. Is that what you call it, a revolving door? You know, when you go in, like in The Godfather, when one of the mob bosses got shot to death by the guy that was in Rocky. The actor that was in Rocky, remember he was getting a shave. What the hell is his name? Anyway, so he shot Fanucci or somebody. Anyway, in a revolving door. Anyway, there's a revolving door there. Bellhop guys running around there as French as you can get. Kind of like a kooky, clowny kind of thing. Anyway, but there's an interesting thing where the kooky, clowny guys are playing. I forget what one else of them is playing, but the other one's sitting at Bonham's drums. And I think he's going like... And it just goes to show you how tightly and high-pitched tuned the drums are. Because when you hear somebody playing them really soft, I mean, they almost sound funky. But Bonham had like a touch, right? Okay. So if you get a chance, type in, if you haven't seen it, Touscene in YouTube or wherever. T-O-U-S, separate word E-N, separate word S-C-E-N-E. Really nifty. Most of us have seen it, but in the event that... Okay. Dancing Days. Now, Dancing Days, I like the sound of Dancing Days. I mean, I like Dancing Days. It's not one of my favorite songs. I'm only human. It's not one of my favorites. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Dancing Days are here. It's a great classic Zeppelin tune, I think. There's some good fills where Bonham's like... There's a couple around the drums. I forget the exact pattern, but really neat sort of around the drum sort of sound. Dancing Days was recorded. It was on House of the Whole, and it's probably what they did at Stargroves. When you see those pictures, I'm pretty sure it's Eddie Kramer took the pictures. I guess Eddie Kramer was at Stargroves with those guys. When you see, you can find those pictures, and Eddie Kramer sells them. You know, they're sitting outside, and I think they're dancing around, and there's pictures of Plant and Page sitting recording. Hey, Mom, what's the matter? And they're sitting there. You see a couple big piping hot U67s. They're sitting right outside. Page has an acoustic guitar. Plant even might have one. Turi has a harmonica. But all those pictures, that's when they're at, I think they're at Stargroves. Yeah, and Eddie Kramer took those pictures. Dancing Days. I like the tune now. I mean, it's sort of, for me, a regular Led Zeppelin tune. So moving on. Darlene. Wow. That total Into the Outdoor beefiness. Now, of course, it was on Coda, but from what I understand, it was recorded for In Through the Outdoor. I just made a video on that. Darling. I think that's how, I just made the video on it, so check out. It's Darling. Darling. And the important thing is you don't go but that hurt like hell. The hi-hat is struck. It's just a bark without the bass drum. That's part of the beauty of it. Pat and Bonamy. Of course, I haven't played that song since I made that video probably a year ago, so I'm kind of forgetting exactly how it goes. There's a lot of stuff in my brain. Anyway, so now, of course, Darlene. Oh, yeah, Darlene. Oh, but wait a minute. We can't move on too fast. Because then it goes to the Darlene, and then it goes to the... Here's on the hi-hat. It's like this. Oh, look at my video. I play it the way it actually was. It's just a triplet. But instead of, it's so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look at my Darlene video. I'll explain it to you there. Because we're moving forward here. Okay, Dazed and Confused. Dazed and Confused, the studio version, marvelous. Pat, that first record just sounded so, so like late 60s sounding. Glenn Johns all over the joint. But anyway, Dazed and Confused. Now bear in mind, it is entirely possible that Bonham did in fact record Dazed and Confused, or the whole first record, with a Slingerland 22-13-60. Or a Ludwig. Some people say, he had a green sparkle Ludwig that was a 22-13-60, but other people say it was maybe a blue sparkle Slingerland. Nonetheless, when you see the tour of them playing at the Gladzax place in Scandinavia thingy, which, by the way, Jorgen Angel has a bunch of pictures he took of that, which I did buy one, which I have one around here where Bonham's sitting at the set. You can clearly see that it is a Slingerland set, as big as life. You can clearly also see he's playing Zildjians. You can clearly see it's a 5x14 Supra. But what's not clear is really what color the drums are, because the pictures are in black and white. Although I do remember seeing a color picture, too, from around that time, but it's really dark, and you can't tell what... The drums look like they're either blue or green. I don't know. Dazed and Confused. Classic. The way it sort of clips along. I mean, it's pretty fast, compared to what we're used to in the live stuff, right? Now, the interesting thing is one of the interesting thing about Dazed and Confused is the 1, 2, ba, 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 okay, well, at some point there, it reverses. Boom, ba, ba. Instead of ba 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 ba, it goes ba 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 ba, and I think it's just the second in the first half of the song. So you could say the big, huge first verse, first half of that, or you'd say in the second verse. Pretty interesting, okay? But just a majestic recording, the whole thing. And the bass guitar especially, that classic John Paul Jones, that just shows you a terrific bass player is when they do just listen to the bass. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. Very similar to what they do later in How Many More Times. Okay, very similar. And then at the very end, the it's marvelous. In fact, I think in one of the outtakes of Dazed and Confused, you can hear at the end, I think he also does another, like at the end of one of the tunes when he does the floor tom, like the... Boy, that's detuned quite a bit. But where you hear sort of like a roll on the floor tom. I think in the original tracking of Dazed and Confused, he might have done that at the end. You know, like on the, kind of the, well, not a fade out, but I think there was a little bit of a... You know what I mean? You hear the end of one of those babies. All right, moving forward. God, man, this is just page 2. Down by the Seaside. Okay, Down by the Seaside, from Physical Graffiti. Down by the Seaside, I understand, was recorded for Zeppelin 3 or Zeppelin 4. To me, it sounds more Zeppelin 4-y by the nature of the drums, which I said in another video, but it could have been Zeppelin 3. I was never a huge fan of the song because when I had first got my hands on Physical Graffiti, I had my original copy here. Actually, the bass drum isn't even that busy. I don't even think he goes... He does that later. But when that first kicks in, the tight, beautiful sound, that tight patented, like that total... Let's just assume he does that, because I love how that sounds. Oh, it is so pretty. Now I can appreciate it, but I must say at the time, I didn't. When that song would kick on, I was like, oh, could we just get to Night Flight already, or the Wanton Song, or... And I'd go through it, so the record would play, I'd be listening to whatever the song it was. And then, you know, the record would be like... And suddenly... And I'd take the needle, and I'd slide it over toward the end of it, and I'd hear that, people turn away, oh yes they turn away. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Wanton Song kicked in right after that, I'm fairly sure. So most I ever really heard that song was the very beginning. And then, people turn away. So I don't have a whole lot to say about that song. I'm just being brutally honest here. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh yeah, it's one of my favorites. One of my favorites, but it wasn't. All right. Now we move on to Jermaker. Now, people are always so funny to say. If you say Diremaker, they're like, oh, it's Jermaker, don't you know, don't you know. In fact, in the Jermaker videos I had, I did refer to it once as Diremaker, but making clear in the video that some people say Diremaker, and somebody probably stop on the video and do a couple comments on. It's Jermaker, not Diremaker, you butthead or whatever. Well, actually, they didn't use butthead. They used a harsher word, if I'm not mistaken. So Jermaker, and of course, based on some kind of a joke. Oh, where did you take it? Oh, to the Bahamas? No, Jermaker. Like it was like a pun on did Jamaica? Like did Jamaica go or whatever? And Jermaker, it's like a Cockney kind of thing. Jermaker, to me, is one of the most ultimate, if not the ultimate sounding Led Zeppelin tunes. Yeah, and of course, it got hammered by critics. Even in that Led Zeppelin book, it's a Celebration Day book, where somebody goes through and they sort of critique all the songs. I mean, they're like, hey, and this is a great Zeppelin tune, and this one starts out with Jimmy Page's blah, 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 and a rocking drum intro, blah, blah, blah. Well, in this song, it's like, sorry, boys, misses the mark. This guy actually has the balls to say that about the beloved Jermaker. I wanted to reach through the book and grab him by the collar and headbutt him until next week. So, but I mean, it's actually all in the snare. Okay, I mean, but listen to those drums. Listen to the sound of the actual drums and the cymbals. Now, to me, it's slightly slowed down. I think they slightly slowed it down. They tracked it, slowed it down, whether or not they kept the bass and everything slowed down to a different tuning, or they re-recorded the bass and everything on top of it. But I hear slowed down drums all over it. Slightly, just to get that thick Bonham Zeppelin tone. But what I also hear, there's this delay in there. It's like, so you hear like da. Like that's a delay sometimes they use. It would be about that long. Okay? Because when you listen to that intro, you can hear when that happens. Listen closely. Well, it depends on where you hear it. It's like da 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 boom 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 boom. Okay? And then there's that totally beautiful part where it kicks in. You don't have to go. Listen when he goes into that crash. He does like a, but it's very soft, almost buzzy. When he doesn't play that pattern in front of it. But bear in mind, you don't have to go. I'm so excited about this. Listen, so it's a very small classic, but it's not all that's thickening that up. You don't have to. What's happening is after that last snare, the delay of that snare happens, in my opinion, to perfectly coincide with the little grace, sort of rough that he has, or drag, I mean, whatever, the couple, maybe 2-3 strokes that go into the crash. It happens to line up perfectly with that. That's why it sounds like you don't have to. It almost sounds like, it almost sounds like a big long roll slightly coming up. But I think, my opinion, that's why it'd be really nice to hear Jamaica without any effects at the normal speed. But I think it's the delay that happens to occur right as he's going into that crash. And to me, that is why I could listen to that over and over again. You don't have to. You don't have to. And that, to me, is the ultimate Peisty 2002 sound. I guess they could have been giant beats. But it's the ultimate B8. I think the drums, everything sounds so fat ass in that song. The fills, too. Just saw. Oh, I mean, it's just the whole schmeal. I have a Jamaica video out there if you want to check it out. A couple interesting things about that too. You can hear as the song goes on, you hear a shaker, and they seem to ride the fader on a little. And listen to the end of Jamaica again. At the very end, listen to that shaker, and I think it's one of those Gordy type things that looks like a mushroom that has like taxi cab, like if you're in a, the movie where a lot of taxi cab drivers are sort of stereotyped as having those bead things that they sit on. It's almost like that on there. It's like shh, shh. You can hear that really loudly. Shh, 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 na na fire. Now, I don't know what that is. It sounds like somebody saying fire, fire. Actually, interesting. But oh baby, if you listen to the very end, oh baby, it's like I think they caught it with the delay at the end of the fade. A beautiful sounding recording. Oh, that is right there. If you look in the dictionary under Peisty Sound Edge, that is what you're going to hear. That and also All My Love. It's magical. So, and maybe I think I have time for one more. I'm rolling along here. How much time do we have, for the love of God? That's my phone. I can't see anything. Oh, I guess we're running out right now. 3, 2,